Welcome back to this fascinating journey into the world of American coinage, where a small and simple coin can sometimes become one of the most talked about treasures in the entire numismatic community. Today we dive into the story of the 1974 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that most people would look at and consider just pocket change, yet in rare cases it has been linked to astonishing values reaching into the millions, and in this story we will explore how this humble 1974 penny has captured the imagination of collectors, investors, and history enthusiasts with a reported market value of $105 million. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that cost just a cent to spend but is now valued at a sum so massive it could change a life forever. This is the allure of rare coins, and the story of the 1974 Lincoln cent is one that deserves to be told in detail, with every twist of history, every detail of design, every error, and every factor that makes collectors believe this penny can be worth a fortune. The tale of the 1974 Lincoln penny begins with its place in American coinage history. The Lincoln cent had been introduced in 1909 as a tribute to the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and it was the first regular issue U.S. coin to feature the portrait of an actual person. The design by Victor David Brenner has stood the test of time, with Lincoln's right-facing bust on the obverse paired with the wheat ears reverse initially, and then the Lincoln Memorial reverse introduced in 1959. By 1974, the Lincoln cent was deeply familiar to every American, but beneath that everyday familiarity, changes were brewing that would mark this year as very special in the history of the penny. In 1974, the United States Mint was grappling with rising copper prices. Each cent was composed primarily of copper, and the cost of producing the coin was beginning to approach, or even exceed, its face value. This economic problem led the Mint to experiment with alternative metals, including aluminum. Striking test cents in aluminum created one of the most legendary stories in all of coin collecting, and these experimental coins have become the stuff of legend. While the general circulation coins of 1974 continued to be struck in the traditional copper alloy of 95% copper and 5% zinc, the mere existence of these aluminum test cents created a buzz that has never fully disappeared. The 1974 aluminum cents were not officially released into circulation, and the Mint demanded that the experimental pieces be returned, but some examples slipped through into private hands. To this day, collectors dream of discovering one of these pieces because they represent one of the most controversial chapters in U.S. Mint history. If you connect this background to the standard 1974 copper cents, you begin to see why people pay close attention to this date. It is not just another Lincoln cent, it is a year tied to change, controversy, and the potential for unbelievable value. Among regular 1974 pennies, most are still common and circulate in large numbers. Billions were produced across different mints, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But what separates a penny worth a cent from a penny worth millions are the details that collectors hunt for. These details include mint errors, unusual striking varieties, and pristine conditions known as mint state grades. In the case of the 1974 Lincoln penny, certain rare errors and unusual striking issues have made collectors speculate values reaching into astronomical heights. This speculation is what leads to the claim of certain examples being worth over $100 million. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of 1974 pennies, and the vast majority are worth face value. However, numismatics is a field where rarity is king. Coins that are preserved perfectly in their original mint luster, with sharp strikes free of scratches, spots, or blemishes, are much rarer than their worn counterparts. Collectors pay huge premiums for such gems. A 1974 penny graded at the highest mint state levels by PCGS or NGC can fetch thousands of dollars depending on its condition. That is already an enormous leap from 1 cent to thousands. But the story gets even more compelling when we add the possibility of extraordinary mint errors. Errors are unintentional mistakes that occur during the striking process, and these mistakes create coins that are truly unique. Some errors involve double dies where the design is imprinted more than once, leading to visible doubling on the lettering or date. Others involve off-center strikes where part of the design is missing or misaligned. Some errors include wrong planchet strikes where the design of a penny is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination such as a dime or foreign coin. In the world of 1974 pennies, such rare errors exist, and they are immensely valuable. For example, a 1974 penny struck on an aluminum planchet would be beyond rare, it would be priceless to collectors. Now consider the market buzz around the most extreme values. Reports have circulated in numismatic communities about examples of 1974 Lincoln pennies fetching sums in the tens of thousands, and even speculative valuations in the hundreds of millions. The claim of a 1974 penny being worth $105 million is tied to the extraordinary desirability of the aluminum test cents and the extreme rarity of unique error examples that have captured the imagination of wealthy collectors. While the majority of these sky-high values are debated, they serve to highlight the magic that makes people search through their change and pay attention to coins that otherwise would go unnoticed. The fascination with a coin like the 1974 penny also lies in the stories collectors tell. Imagine someone inheriting a jar of pennies from a grandparent and discovering that one of them is a rare error worth millions. Stories like these fuel the hunt and keep the passion for coin collecting alive. Coin dealers, auction houses, and grading services all play a role in this ecosystem. Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Corporation are among the most trusted graders whose certification of a coin can elevate its value dramatically. A 1974 penny certified as a top grade or identified as a unique error instantly becomes a treasure. In terms of history, the 1974 penny stands at a crossroads. It links the classic copper cents with the changes that would come in 1982 when the composition officially changed from mostly copper to mostly zinc with a thin copper plating. Thus, 1974 represents one of the last years when pennies were still truly made of copper. For collectors, this adds another layer of significance. Copper cents have a way to feel and a sound that zinc cents simply do not match. Holding a copper 1974 penny is holding a piece of the past in your hand, and when you add the context of the aluminum experiments, that year the story becomes even richer. The idea of a penny being worth $105 million may sound unbelievable, but it is part of a wider truth in collectibles markets. Value is often driven not by intrinsic worth but by rarity, desirability, and stories. The 1974 penny has all three. Its rarity lies in its errors and experimental strikes. Its desirability is fueled by the fame of the aluminum cent controversy. Its story is tied to the broader economic and historical context of the 1970s when America was dealing with inflation and changing metal prices. When all these factors combine, a coin can transcend its face value and become a cultural icon. As we consider the present-day market, the buzz around the 1974 penny continues. Collectors worldwide search for varieties and dream of uncovering a hidden treasure in their pocket change. Online marketplaces, auction houses, and collector forums are filled with discussions about the potential values of these coins. High-grade examples regularly sell for hundreds to thousands of dollars, and unique errors can command far more. And then there is the mythical level, the idea of a coin worth $105 million. Whether or not such a coin actually trades for that sum, the very possibility creates excitement and drives interest in the hobby. Every detail of the 1974 penny adds to its mystique. The obverse design with Lincoln's bust, the inscriptions "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1974 along with the mint mark D for Denver creates the familiar face of the coin. The reverse design featuring the Lincoln Memorial includes the tiny image of Lincoln seated inside, visible with a magnifying glass. These design details make the coin both artistic and symbolic, a miniature monument to American history and values. My great viewers, now let's go to a world where a coin that most people would overlook in their pocket change becomes a story of fortune, history, and mystery. The 1974 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny is not only one of the most fascinating pieces of American coinage, but also a coin surrounded by legends of wealth and rarity, with claims that certain examples are valued as high as $104 million. Imagine something so small, so common, yet holding the potential to be worth more than a mansion, more than luxury cars, and more than most people could ever dream of. That is the power of numismatics, the passion for collecting coins and unlocking the hidden treasures they hold. The story of the 1974 D penny begins in an era when the cost of minting coins was under the microscope. By 1974, the price of copper was rising dramatically, and each 1-cent coin was made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. The United States Mint faced a dilemma: if the cost of producing each penny was close to or more than its actual value, then changes had to be made. This led to one of the most famous experiments in American coin history, the creation of aluminum cents in 1974. Although the Denver Mint, where the 1974 D penny was struck, did not officially release aluminum cents, it is forever linked to this era of experimentation, controversy, and change. The Denver Mint was one of the largest producers of circulating pennies in 1974. It struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents with the familiar design by Victor David Brenner on the obverse, featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile facing right with the inscriptions "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1974, accompanied by the small D mint mark beneath the date. On the reverse was Frank Gasparo's design of the Lincoln Memorial, a tribute to Lincoln's legacy, and one of the most detailed reverses in U.S. coinage history, even including a tiny image of Lincoln's seated statue inside the memorial. While the design was standard, the intrigue surrounding this year's pennies came from the materials used, the errors produced, and the experiments taking place at the same time. Most 1974 D pennies are ordinary coins still found in circulation today, and worth only their face value. Billions were made in copper. Pennies of the 1970s are still common in jars, drawers, and coin rolls across the United States. But as with all coins, the extraordinary lies in the exceptions. Some coins from 1974 are not ordinary at all. These include error coins struck on the wrong planchet, unusual double die varieties, off-center strikes, or examples that somehow survived in pristine mint state condition for decades. In the rarest cases, stories circulate of 1974 D pennies linked to the aluminum cent experiments, and when rarity intersects with history and demand, values can soar beyond imagination. Error coins from 1974 D have been found with dramatic features. A double die obverse where the date or lettering appears doubled is one of the most sought-after errors and can bring thousands of dollars depending on its clarity and condition. Off-center strikes where the design is misaligned can be worth hundreds or thousands depending on how far the strike is off. Pennies struck on dime planchets or foreign planchets are considered spectacular mint mistakes and are highly desirable among advanced collectors. These are the kinds of coins that take a penny beyond its 1-cent denomination and make it worth a fortune. But perhaps the most captivating part of the 1974 D penny story is the aluminum cent experiment. The U.S. Mint struck more than 1 million aluminum pennies in 1974 as a test, but almost all were ordered to be destroyed. Some examples, however, slipped out of official hands into the world. These coins have caused decades of legal battles, speculation, and myth. If a 1974 D aluminum cent were ever confirmed and legally sold at auction, it could indeed command astronomical sums. This is where the figures of $100 million come into the conversation. It is not about the ordinary copper penny, but about the extraordinary rarity of an aluminum cent, or a unique error from this year. Now let us explore the grading aspect, because condition is everything in numismatics. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, with higher numbers representing better preservation. A 1974 D penny found in change might grade very low due to scratches, wear, and tarnish, and would only be worth a cent or slightly more for copper value. However, a coin preserved in mint state with full luster and no marks can be worth significant premiums. Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company are the most respected grading companies, and their certification can turn a common penny into a valuable treasure. For instance, a 1974 penny graded MS-67 or higher could bring hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction. This dramatic increase in value just for condition alone shows why collectors search so passionately for these coins. The cultural and historical backdrop of the 1970s adds another layer of significance. America was experiencing economic changes, inflation, rising commodity prices, and shifts in monetary policy. The penny itself was under question whether it should continue to be made in copper or whether a cheaper alternative should replace it. The 1974 penny is thus more than just a coin, it is a snapshot of a country wrestling with change and adapting its currency to new realities. For collectors, this makes the coin historically important as well as numismatically valuable. Stories of incredible values also fuel the imagination. There are tales of collectors discovering rare 1974 pennies in inherited collections in rolls of change or at estate sales. The possibility that one of these small copper coins could be worth millions is what keeps the hunt alive. Auction houses from heritage auctions to Stack's Bowers regularly feature Lincoln cents, and some rare errors or unique varieties from this era sell for tens of thousands. When the idea of a $104 million valuation is mentioned, it elevates the mystique and creates a kind of treasure hunt energy around the 1974 penny. Let us not forget the artistry of the coin itself. The obverse portrays Lincoln with dignity, a constant reminder of his role in American history. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, a structure that symbolizes unity, perseverance, and leadership. Even though billions were minted, each coin carries this symbolism in miniature. The artistry combined with the economic story makes the 1974 penny a coin worth studying far beyond its face value. From a collector's perspective, every detail matters. The color of the copper, red-brown or red-brown, can affect value. Red pennies with their original mint color are the most prized. Strike quality, whether the details are sharp and clear, also influences desirability. Provenance, the history of ownership, can add further value, especially if a coin has been part of a famous collection. All these elements combine to make certain 1974 pennies extraordinary treasures. Looking at the present market, the fascination with the 1974 penny remains strong. Collectors actively search through coin rolls hoping to find high-grade examples or rare errors. Dealers highlight top-graded coins in their inventories, and auction results continue to show strong demand. While the majority of 1974 pennies remain common, the dream of finding one linked to the aluminum experiment or a dramatic mint error pushes interest ever higher. This is why the 1974 penny is sometimes described as a sleeping giant of the coin world, a common coin with the potential to be a life-changing discovery. When we speak of a penny being worth $104 million, it is important to recognize what drives such a value. It is not just the metal content or the design, it is the combination of extreme rarity, historical significance, and collector demand. In a world where wealthy collectors compete for unique items, a coin like a 1974 aluminum cent or a one-of-a-kind mint error could indeed reach stratospheric values. Whether or not such a sale has yet occurred, the idea itself keeps the story alive and ensures that the 1974 penny will never be forgotten. The legacy of this coin goes beyond the numismatic world. It represents the idea that small things can hold great value. It reminds us that history can be carried in our pockets. It proves that what seems ordinary can sometimes be extraordinary. For the young collector starting out, it is a symbol of possibility. For the seasoned numismatist, it is a challenge to find that one rare piece. And for the dreamers, it is the chance that a penny could be worth $100 million. So next time you see a 1974 penny, look at it closely. Examine the details. Imagine the stories. My dears, now let's go to a story that takes us deep into the world of American coinage, where ordinary change can sometimes transform into treasures beyond imagination. The 1976 Lincoln 1-cent penny is a coin that most people would see as just a simple copper piece, but in the world of numismatics it holds stories of history, artistry, rarity, and staggering value. There are claims that certain 1976 Lincoln pennies can be worth as much as $100 million, and whether that number is fact or legend, it captures the dreams of collectors and inspires people everywhere to look more closely at the coins they carry every single day. The tale of the 1976 penny is more than a financial curiosity. It is a reflection of America's past and its enduring fascination with the smallest denomination of money. The Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for nearly 70 years when the 1976 penny was struck. First introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first regular-issue United States coin to depict a real person. The obverse portrait of Lincoln by Victor David Brenner became iconic, and by 1976 this design was instantly recognizable to every American. On the reverse was Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959, a design that gave the coin a sense of dignity and symbolism by featuring the great monument in Washington, D.C., and even a tiny representation of Lincoln seated inside. This combination of art and history made the penny more than just a coin, it was a national emblem in miniature. The year 1976 itself was historic. It marked the United States bicentennial, the 200th anniversary of American independence. Across the nation, coins were minted with special bicentennial designs such as the quarter, half dollar, and dollar, which carried dual dates of 1776 and 1976 along with special reverses. Yet the Lincoln cent did not change its design. While it retained its usual look, the 1976 penny was still part of the great bicentennial year, making it part of the broader narrative of America, celebrating its heritage. For collectors, this adds another layer of historical importance because every coin from 1976 connects to that patriotic moment in time. Billions of 1976 pennies were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with no mint mark for Philadelphia and a small D for Denver. On the surface, these coins are common and can still be found in circulation today. However, within this ocean of copper cents lie rare gems that tell a very different story. Some 1976 pennies survive in immaculate condition with blazing red luster untouched by circulation. Others bear mint errors that make them unique. And some are rumored to be tied to mysterious circumstances that elevate their value to mythical levels. It is within these special cases that we find the talk of staggering values, even reaching $100 million. To understand why a penny can be worth so much, we must first look at the metal composition. In 1976, the cent was still struck from a bronze alloy of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. This heavier copper composition would continue until 1982, when rising metal prices forced the mint to adopt a cheaper zinc core with copper plating. For collectors, copper cents carry a certain nostalgia and intrinsic value, especially when compared to their zinc counterparts. The sound, the weight, the feel of copper all make these older pennies more desirable. Holding a 1976 penny is like holding a piece of that older America before the shift to modern, cheaper coins. Condition is one of the biggest drivers of value. A circulated 1976 penny that has passed through countless hands is usually worth only its face value or slightly more. But a coin that was saved at the time of issue and kept carefully preserved can command impressive premiums. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, and a 1976 penny graded at MS-67 or higher can fetch hundreds, or even thousands of dollars at auction. Collectors value the rich red color of copper cents that have not toned or browned over time. Red mint state 1976 pennies are rare, and their rarity translates into high demand and higher prices. Errors are another path to rarity and extreme value. The minting process, even with its precision, sometimes produces mistakes, and those mistakes are treasures to collectors. Some 1976 pennies show double die obverse errors where the date or lettering appears doubled. Others have off-center strikes where part of the design is missing or misaligned. Still others may have been struck on the wrong planchet, such as a dime or foreign coin blank. Each of these errors is unique, and uniqueness drives value. A spectacular mint error can take a common penny and turn it into something worth thousands or even millions. The legend of a 1976 penny being worth $100 million may be tied to extreme cases of rarity, or even rumors of experimental strikes. While no such penny has officially sold for that price, the very possibility keeps the story alive. Wealthy collectors are known to pay staggering sums for one-of-a-kind items. If a 1976 penny were discovered with a unique error or experimental composition and verified by experts, it could indeed command astronomical bids. This is how dreams of $100 million penny are born, and this is why collectors never stop searching. The artistry of the coin also deserves recognition. Lincoln's profile is not just a portrait, it is a symbol of freedom, unity, and leadership. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse reminds Americans of the struggles and triumphs of their history. Every line, every detail carries meaning, and for collectors this makes the coin not just currency but art. In 1976, with the nation celebrating 2 centuries of independence, these symbols carried even greater resonance. A simple penny from that year is part of the grand story of America itself. Collectors often tell stories of incredible discoveries. Someone sorting through a jar of old change might come across a perfectly preserved 1976 penny. Another person might inherit a collection and find an error coin worth thousands. These stories fuel the excitement and prove that treasures can be hiding in plain sight. Auction houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers regularly feature rare Lincoln cents, and bidding wars break out for the finest examples. The record prices set for Lincoln cents inspire dreams of even higher values in the future. Looking at the broader historical context, the 1976 penny is a reminder of the changing times. The country was grappling with inflation, energy crises, and social shifts. The mint was facing pressure from rising costs. The penny itself was being questioned as useful or wasteful. Yet despite these debates, the coin endured. It continued to circulate as a familiar everyday object even as the world around it changed. For collectors, the 1976 penny is not just a coin, it is a time capsule of American life in the bicentennial year. When we hear of a penny worth $100 million, it is easy to dismiss it as fantasy, but in the world of collectibles, fantasy often meets reality. A baseball card, a painting, or a rare stamp can fetch astronomical sums at auction. Why not a penny if it is unique enough? The 1976 penny has the historical importance, the design beauty, and the potential for rarity that makes such a dream possible. Even if most pennies from that year remain common, the allure of the extraordinary example keeps the legend alive. Every collector who holds a 1976 penny imagines what it could be worth. For some, it is a sentimental keepsake from the bicentennial year. For others, it is a candidate to be sent to a grading service in hopes of a high mint state grade. For the dreamers, it is the chance that one day a hidden treasure will be revealed worth not just thousands or millions, but a staggering $100 million. And that dream is what gives life to the hobby and keeps the search going year after year. So the next time you come across a 1976 Lincoln penny, do not dismiss it as just change. Look closely at its details: the luster, the strike, the color, the mint mark. Think about the history it represents, the bicentennial year, the enduring legacy of Lincoln, the artistry of the design. Consider the stories of errors and experiments. And remember that in the world of coins, even the smallest piece can hold unimaginable value. The 1976 penny is more than money. It is history, art, mystery, and dream all rolled into one. Whether worth a cent or $100 million, it proves that value is not always about numbers stamped on metal but about the meaning people attached to it.